Oh, hello, and welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta. Tonight we have Digital Immortality. So yeah, unfortunately, Dr. Leviathan had a little bit of a hiccup at his lair, so we decided to continue the show without him. He will be back next time. And so yeah, if you want... For those of you not in the know, creepypasta are short, scary stories that get copied and pasted across the internet, whether it be on wikis or forum threads. Go Google creepypasta. And digital immortality. God, I almost said digital photography.
Sweet.
And digital immortality is by Stephen Shorter. His work's come up on the show before. And you can check it out at creepypasta.org. And there are several readings of it on YouTube, so I'll leave one of the links in the description below wherever this gets posted. So, we'll dive into it. The story tells the tale of a Russian man named Alexander Kamov and his technological achievement of transferring human minds into a machine, and the horror that occurred because, well, it's a horror story. Nothing good comes from tampering with... nature ever. if decades of sci-fi horror movies have taught us anything. It goes into his backstory and the history of him losing his parents at an early age in a car accident. They were in comas for 10 years and then they died due to a power failure when they got transferred to another location. During this time and on, he was a very driven person in reading and researching neuroscience and robotics, and then eventually philosophy, such as Descartes, who believed human consciousness and the physical existence of the human body were separate. So at age 16, he was accepted into the Moscow State University. However, his obsession and some dubious activities later saw him drop out of MSU, and he went off official records for almost 25 years before popping up here and there with scientific articles between 2001 and 2009. Then, before the end of 2011, ads began appearing in need of terminally ill individuals wanting a chance to live forever in numerous Russian cities and towns. It was one of these individuals that actually brought to light the discoveries of Kamov. In a retrofitted weather station in the Ural Mountains, he had built a machine, which was pretty much a maze of machines hidden underneath the facility, that by hooking up a person to it, would transfer their minds into the machine, with some of them even going into coma states and dying. And it was one of them that apparently had there was a lawsuit thing involved, and so the ex tried to call the authorities, and that's when the investigation led to this abandoned this weather station in the Ural Mountains. So yeah, he got found out. There was a big political kerfuffle, and they wanted him to build a way to make sure that these people were actually in the machine. Which I've got to say, the UN is very surprisingly trustworthy of a guy who claims that he has transferred the minds of people into machine.
One of the biggest issues I had is that as soon as anyone finds out about it, it's suddenly, bam, UN issue.
Yeah.
There's no the Russian government.
Well, the Russian government's part of it, but it becomes more of a UN issue than anything. I'm pretty sure, again, this might be my horror movie biased, but I'm pretty sure the Russians would not want this leaking out at all, and it would be very. I mean, we had there have been things in real life the Snowden thing where he leaked out a bunch of information on WikiLeaks. So I mean that kind of shit could happen, and that's why it became a UN problem. Because I think it does describe the only reason people public found out about it because there were leaks in the news. However, I like how the narrator does say it's and the one inside guy who leaked out the information was summarily just arrested. He wasn't like just executed, like. Because most times when you read like anything, when I've read stuff or watched stuff about like Russian government stuff, it's usually just a bullet in the head for insubordination. But that might just be like
that might just be the media trying to make it worse than it
that might just
actually
be North American, or let's face it, American media trying to still demonize the Russians. So all right, where were we? Yeah, so they ask him to build this, build a way to get to see them, because they ask him, I was like, how do you know they're there? It's like, oh, they're in there, I just can't talk to them. I didn't build that part of the machine. And so it's like, well, can you build one? It's like, yes. And within a week, he had one built. He had a device built to go into the Matrix, which essentially is what it is. So
he's a horrible programmer. Like, you gotta have unit testing.
Well, he does. He has.
Like, how else do you know that they're in there if you can't communicate with them?
I want to, like, without going too, like, without being too insulting to people, it's kind of like Christian Scientists. It's like, I have faith. it's like or you know what? Better yet, it's like the thing from Prometheus. It's like, how do you know that life's out there? It's like, because I have faith. It's like, you have coordinates that are pulled off of a cave wall, and that's the gist of your like evidence that, oh yeah, there's totally aliens out there, and there's this planet that we can go to, and there'll be aliens there. And it's just like, how do you know that? Faith. Anyway,
Well, wasn't he a billionaire or something? So he could.
No, that was his sponsor.
That was his sponsor.
Yeah, the scientists though that found the original evidence and stuff were like, they were on board, and somebody asked them, was like, how do you know they're going to be there? And they're scientists, right? It's like, faith.
I see.
Yeah. It was that kind of like, you're a scientist, you really shouldn't be anyway. Anywho,
it's that just reminds me of a really interesting video on YouTube, which is was it Creationism versus Bill Nye?
Oh Jesus!
And essentially, Bill Nye goes and does this. I think it's like a 2-hour conference where he states science, and the other guy's stating.
Sorry, all I think of is just Bill Nye going up to a conference like full of like creationists, so he's just like, science, 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 and then at the very end, science.
Yeah, so just that, and then one of the things that the creationists was like, well, there's scientists who are creationists. It's not mutually exclusive. It's like, I don't know if I would trust a scientist being a creationist.
I mean, you know what? I mean, to counter that, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, to their own like if you have a belief system prior to going into the scientific community, just make sure it's separate.
Well, but the problem is you have scientists, like, and this is one of the examples, you have scientists that are looking at stuff that's thousands, millions of years old,
whereas
documenting how old they are, yet the universe is only 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
So there's a distinct...
I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying it's like, I mean... Everybody deserves their own opinion, even if sometimes it's wrong. Wow, I feel like Dr. Leviathan right now. God
it has begun.
No, not again. You're really his ploy, isn't it? You're just here to try and convert me to the ways of Leviathan.
Well, the E does stand for evil.
Damn it. He is a doctor of ponerology. Poner. Anyway, back onto the story. This Dr. Luka Lazovic volunteers and goes under when hooked up to the machine. After 2 hours, 2 hours of him just being in a coma and hooked up to this machine and like occasional nosebleeds and stuff, he awakes and is terrified and gibbering about how the people are in there, but they're blind and screaming, and he felt that there was something else there with them in the darkness. Luca seems to have recovered for it after, like, later on, but then he goes nuts, and in the aftermath, the public turns from sympathy for Kamov's whole plight to one of hostility. It's like, he's a terrorist, or he can't be trusted. Well, anyways, wait. That's American, not Russian. Anyway. But yeah, the public turns on Kamov and his cause. So during a riot outside the gates of his facility, which again is in the Ural Mountains at a retrofitted weather station, Dr. Kamov goes and burns most of his notes and documents out back in a fire, and then gets a call from a mysterious source on his cell phone. He has a heated argument with that person, though we never get what the other side of the story. We never get inklings as to what was talked about. But afterward, tearfully and distressed, Dr. Kamov just walks out of the facility and into the Ural wilderness and is never seen again. And we are then treated to our narrator contemplating the political the political purgatory of Kamov's facility. See, I just got to stop doing alliteration. Mm-hmm. That's seriously what it seems like. We're treated to the narrator contemplating the political purgatory of Kamov's facility and the machine, and how the media has left the story in the dust for greener pastures, like the War on Terror, and and those people are still inside the machine, left blind and screaming, and that's how the story ends. So, Mikey, you start first.
What? What?
You want me to start, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my thoughts on this one: it's a cool sci-fi concept, and it's creepy if you think about it. It's one of those high concepts of transhumanity, or hey, we can survive death by just putting ourselves in the machine, but at what cost? I'm not going to say. I mean, we always tend to go into it's been done before, but for this one, it's everything's been done before, so
yeah,
it's not really a bickering.
And if you go to Wikipedia and search digital immortality, there's an entire section dedicated to the concept.
Yeah.
And if you want a reference to pop culture, the TV show Fringe had an episode with the late Leonard Nimoy that touched on this subject. And they approached it from the side, trying to save someone, as opposed to, it's an experiment for other people and things, which was a nice twist on it. I'm sure there's more references, that one movie with
Johnny Depp. Was it something Ascendance, or I think it was something. Essentially, the plot is the same thing. It's Johnny Depp's character has a terminal illness, but is a brilliant mind, and so he focuses all his work into building a machine to put himself in, so that so his consciousness will survive. And then the whole story is he really still Johnny, or is he just an AI,
or does he become the machine?
Yeah,
and devoid of emotions. Essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Are we is by the end of the movie, there's actually even a fringe terrorist group that's devoted to stopping his project because they're afraid that he's going to become the next cybernetic overlord of Earth. But that one was actually really heartwarming at the end too. It was
yeah,
we're in an apocalypse now, but you know what? He was okay. It turned out that turning off the machine was not a good idea. So it reads, the story at hand read to me like a news journal, more factual than an actual traditional narrative that we see in stories and stuff. There was a story there, obviously, but there's a lot of facts put into the story.
And the biggest thing is there's a lot of facts and not enough creepy.
Yes. It actually will be something I touch on later. Is that I'm happy that the guy or Steven obviously didn't describe in super amounts of technobabble detail how the machine worked and whatnot. He just gives us that it works, and like this stuff happened. Like there's cause and effect for it. I'm actually kind of happy that he didn't go straight to tech porn.
Yeah.
Or like whatever. What's his name? Tom Clancy kind of levels of like describing every bit of tech.
Yeah. But at the same time, he could have explained it a little bit more from the creepy side to get you going.
Yeah, like I actually I was left at the end is like, what the fuck is that other thing that you felt in the darkness? Like aside from it, like it doesn't seem like it's another one of those stories where like nothing really threatened the characters.
Yeah.
Aside from the poor victims that are stuck in the machine.
Yeah.
They were,
and
I hate to be like that guy, but I mean they were dead already.
Yeah, it is a thing where the victims themselves were terminally ill.
Yeah, they were on death's door.
They're going to die anyway, so it becomes a question of whether or not they were treated fairly at the end, but even then, that's not really creepy.
Exactly, yeah. Like, again, the concept of that the story is trying to... Yeah, like, it seems like Steve didn't want to muddle the story with, like, the nitty-gritty of actual, like, detail about how the machine works.
Yeah.
It was all just to serve the narrative of his concept that he had, which he started off with, which is the whole thing. It was like, what cost do we pay for, digital immortality? Or he probably saw the digital immortality concept and was like, hey, I can make a story out of this.
Yeah.
But so the concept itself is creepy if you think about it, but the story doesn't really present a super creepiness.
No.
And I think it's also because like while he doesn't give us like super amounts of detail on certain things like the machine, he also doesn't give us a lot of detail about what exactly the story is. Like, who's the benefactor to Kamov?
Yeah.
Like, why does he get into a heated argument and cry and then walk out into the wilderness when he gets that phone call? Like, why is he burn his stuff? How do we know any of the information that we have on this guy and like his material and stuff of that from our narrator? Like, our narrator is supposed to, I took it to be like a journalist in Russia doing this article, but like he even mentions early on that like a lot of the documentation was burned and destroyed.
And this is what was pieced together of what was found.
Pretty good piecing together.
Yeah. I'll take some little liberties here and there, but this is the...
Like, I mean, I could see him getting information about Kamov's, like, backstory and some of that, and him disappearing, because we never actually, like, never doesn't say, like, what he was doing exactly in 25 years. Although, it is interesting that the guy, like, just went off the grid for 25 years, and then was also sending, like, scientific articles to, like, Time magazine, and so it was, like, or, like, Russian, or, like, similar, like, scientific journals, and I was like, huh?
I'm off the grid, and yet I'm publishing.
I'm a published author. Yeah, the story doesn't really present. Like, it's not. It's a fascinating. When I was reading it, I was never like fully immersed in dread or like creepiness. It was more or less like, oh, this is a fascinating read, or this is a kind of an intriguing idea. I would like to read more. So I did actually enjoy the read of it, but like as a creepy story, it didn't really follow through. Aside from, they're screaming because they're blind and screaming. Like that revelation is like for a moment gives you a bit of a creepiness. It's like, oh shit, it's like shit went wrong. And I think that's also I think that was one of the things that Dr. Leviathan had when we asked him about the story prior to the mishap was that he didn't like the story because it was. There was nothing, like, it was too vague about about a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, too vague on, well, even the technology, like, you're saying, like, well, our brain is nothing but electrical impulses, translating that to a computer, which is...
exactly. Like, you could add that in. I think he does actually mention, like, or in the story, it's mentioned that, like, the human brain is, like, this amount of terabytes. So it goes into that, but, I mean, it doesn't actually go into, like, what we know already about, like... I mean, it's not possible to do it, but we have ideas for it that Stephen could have used to, add it into the story to make it more believable.
Yeah. Well, don't fully explain what's happening, but give a basic...
Give a little bit more than, like... Because, I mean, like, again, I did say, like, I'm glad you didn't do tech porn, but at the same time, like... Or, like, technobabble. But at the same time... There was an instance where, like, he was talking about plugging people into the machine. I was like... And then, like, their minds getting just flowing through the labyrinth. And I was like... And there was a brief moment where I was like, "Wait, are they hooked up, or is he just like putting them all like making them comatose, and then their minds are just coming out of their body and just going into just like is it like some kind of weird spiritualist kind of thing?" But yeah, then I reread it and I was like, "Oh no, he does actually plug it in." But like for a moment there, I was like, "Wait, how?" Like it was just described wrong, or it was written, I guess, improperly to like make that clear. What else do I have? I have a couple more things. Oh yeah, a nitpick for this one for me is so it mentions the whole thing. This whole thing at the very beginning is his opus magnum is called
Magnum opus.
Sorry, his magnum opus is called Project Velox. And that's at the beginning. And then at the end, it's called the Lazarus Machine. First off, I'm just like, why are there two? Lazarus Engine. And so the first off, I was like, why is there two different names for this thing when he had one at the beginning? The other part was like, oh, well, Velox, it must be something Russian. So I went online on Google, typed in Velox, expecting to find a Russian word, but I did not. I found is a planet. Velox is the name of a planet in a sci-fi fantasy series called Pendragon, and the book in particular is called The Reality Bug, circa 2003. And the book seems to be about the planet, or the planet itself is populated. The majority of the planet is populated by people that are in a VR simulation. So I guess that might have been the inspiration for the story as well, or like for the maybe he was reading the story or something and liked the name, so he used that initially, and then was like, maybe he came up to the same conclusion I just did because so that book came out in 2003.
Wow,
he was he was operating from 2001 to 2009. He was already old. He's a Russian, an isolated part of Russia. I don't think he'd have access to a book series from North America. Yeah, I could be wrong. Wow. It's just my jaded or my sheltered. It could just be my sheltered opinion because I don't I know books do get translated to other countries, but I can't see Kamov reading the Pendragon series.
Yeah. Well, and when I looked it up, I sort of looked past the book mentioning and looked at the other links.
Yeah, and you found Velox, I think it was, because it was a single E, whereas Velox starts with two E's, and that's...
Yeah. Well, and it had... it was focused on the astral plane.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which is sort of...
It's sort of connected to the spirit world, or like the consciousness, because I mean, like it's an Eastern mythology, or it's an Eastern philosophy of like the astral plane, like meditating will take you to the astral plane kind of thing. So yeah, I could see it. Yeah, I could see it for that. But I mean, like that double E is what makes me think that it was more for the book, because while there is a word for called Velox, it's why wasn't it Velox? And I mean, it was only used once in the story, so maybe it was a typo. But the other one that's really nitpicky for me, even I think I kind of have a hard connection to this. So Kamov is mentioned early on. It stated that he is Jewish. So why would he use a Christian figure like Lazarus for this, for his project name? Other than, and then I counterpoint it with other than the fact that it's resurrection, or has to do with resurrection. I think that's, and I think there was actually, I can't remember if it was Leviathan or you that came up with a better name solution for that.
It was, but the thing to take from that is that Jews don't deny that Jesus existed. Yeah. So, because technically Jesus was Jewish.
Yeah, Jesus was a Jew. So I mean, it just kind of it came off to me initially as kind of weird that he'd do that. And again, it also attributes to the fact that while I enjoyed the read and learning this guy's backstory, a lot of it was kind of unnecessary. And I believe that's another thing from Leviathan is that as well is that it was a lot of that backstory did not need to be done. It could have been we could have done without it.
Yeah, like the parents being in a coma for 10 years.
And then later they died because they were transferred to another facility and the power went out. It was it's just really specific, just offhanded things. Yeah.
And then his pursuit to essentially go into a coma to go into a machine.
Yeah. You'd think that he'd, like, have a trigger for comas.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not really laughing at that because, I mean, like, triggers are a serious thing. But, yeah, like, it just makes more sense that he wouldn't try and, like, he'd probably develop, like, it was such a traumatic experience with his parents being in comas. Yeah. Why would he want to subject somebody to the same thing?
Unless...
It does show, actually, it does, I think you mentioned, like, I mean, at least when he loses, like, 3 of his patients, he actually does have, like, ornate, or very, like, thoroughly, like, done up, like, graves for them, like, even with wreaths and stuff like that. So he does have some compassion for the living and the dead. It's just, like, it would have probably been a trigger for him for people to be in comas. And, like, is that really living?
Although, another way which he could have spun it is doing it so that, for people who are in comas, so that you can say your last goodbyes to someone. That would make more sense, but again, that's not really explained or touched on, or...
Yeah, and like again, the whole thing is like, oh, it took him a week to build the device to check up on them. It's like it's almost as if he had it planned, maybe from the beginning. It's like
chances are he already had it. Unit testing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I have it up and running, but this is version 1.0, and my newest upgrade is version 1.5, so it doesn't quite work with the new version. I better update that.
Yeah,
which is why it only took a week.
Yeah, exactly. I also liked the one thing I did like about the description of the machine was that it actually the technology started getting outdated as he went on. So he just started, rather than replace it all, he just started hardwire, hooking it all up and retrofitting it to work. And I kind of like it adds to his obsession and his desperation to get this done.
Yeah. Well, and
I just wish that we knew who the fuck was paying him, because it wasn't the government, according to, because it's Putin, because it does mention what happened to the machine after, UN wanted it to be stay safe and some of that, but Putin was has his claws on it, or his hands on it, not to demonize Russians, has his hands on it and stuff, so he doesn't want anything to do. He doesn't want anybody else to touch it. But it wasn't but they didn't know until the investigation happened.
Yeah.
And so it's where was and then again, who was on the other side of that phone call?
Yeah. And just going back to the computer thing that you pointed out there, where he starts off with so much technology
outdated,
and then
it has to retrofit it to accommodate.
When you think about it, he needs, 2,500 terabytes per person.
Yeah.
And there's 30?
Yeah. There were 30 people hooked up to that thing, yeah.
Old technology can't handle that. So it would have taken the retrofitting, but then you run into essentially the Windows Experience Index, where your computer is only as fast as the slowest part.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, that's something you want to consider.
Yeah. So, which got me thinking, okay, so you move your consciousness into this computer.
Yeah.
That's slow and has limited to no internet connection. Of course you're going to be screaming!
I would be too if I had the dial tone for an eternity. Oh God. Yeah. By the way, Mikey, the E stands for evil, is also an IT wizard. The T stands for terror. So, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you leave it to the tech guy to find the flaws. But yeah, just I can't see it. All I keep hearing is the dial tone. Truly, I am in hell.
And that's the other entity, is the dial tone.
The dial tone, yeah, no, you know what I just realized? So they're blind, right? So they don't have any visual output because they're in a computer. What if the reason, with that other presence, is actually just the equivalent of hearing something, And so it's just the dial tone. It's just white noise or the dial tone from the old machines. Oh my god, that's realistically dark and gritty. I love it, kind of. Like it's a lot, I like it a lot more than just having there being like some random demon or something in the machine.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Like that. If that was the twist, seriously, Steve, if you ever go around to fixing this, maybe have that like as a consideration for why like they're screaming and just in hell. Oh, yeah. Do you have anything else, Mike?
Another thing from Dr. Leviathan.
Yes.
Was the ending where the author could have had it come from someone who was in the machine.
Yeah, right. Where it was actually like somebody typing up this whole journal thing because they had access to all the data, the actual informational data. Yeah, and that's how like the guy knew all of Kamov's information, and it could honestly be that girl, like the one woman that caused it to come to light again. Yeah, I do like that. Like it's and because like they're hooked up to a machine, like what are the chances that Kamov didn't hook it up to wireless so that they can go to the internet and post it there?
Yes.
The real horror is that they're actually all just stuck in. They weren't blind before. They were blind for like they were blind after about maybe 5 seconds, and that was only because they checked out 4chan. They gazed into the deep web and found horrors.
Alright. This also touches a little bit on philosophy and how the character studied Descartes.
Yeah. Is it Descartes or Descartes?
It's French.
Okay, so it's French. Okay, yeah. Descartes. Yeah.
But who is famous for, I think, therefore you is. Wait, no. That's...
I think, therefore I am.
Sorry, I just quoted the late Ray DiTutto. Robin Williams. Yeah, so it's, I think therefore I am.
We're just naming off like late greats.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy, Robin Williams,
Descartes.
Anyway, an interesting thing, just a side note, because I had been reading a little bit of philosophy before I actually read this, and it's just a random post on the internet, and how some people have a way of thinking that essentially memory and consciousness are separate. So your memory is tied to your brain.
Yeah.
But your consciousness isn't.
So it's kind of the mix between ROM and RAM? Or it's the difference between that? Or
sort of. But anyway, it's going on that you could move your consciousness into other things and all that. And...
But your memory dies with you?
Yeah.
Again, why they're screaming.
Yeah. And the interesting thing...
Oh god, that's like... So we have digital... sorry, just like, not to cut you out, like, right off the bat. I just envisioned, like... and this is a horrible thing. Like, this actually makes this really terrible, like, terrifying. It's just... it's a digital landscape of... what the hell is the word for them? People who lose their memory with age.
Alzheimer's?
Yeah, it's just a digital hell space of just Alzheimer victims. Like, that's why they're screaming. Oh god, that's horrifying. Oh god, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. That's Leviathan. No. Yeah, holy crap. Okay, so
anyway,
continue.
So an interesting part about that's also sort of sidetrack is that because of the separation, some people believe that the universe is only 5 minutes old. Take that, creationists.
Take that, Mom. Yeah.
Because you're only conscious.
No, yeah. So wait, the universe is just actually really young because we have the memories of goldfish? Oh my god. That's kind of creepy. Alright.
Yeah, and that's all for my notes.
So you got... Okay. So, and I guess now we're boiling down to the Wire, which is actually something I was dreading because I don't know what to give this one. It might be a conditional recommendation. I would recommend it for the concept, because it is written well, I thought. Even if it's written as a journal, like a newspaper journal and whatnot.
And if you're going for the concept, you can find it easily on Wikipedia.
I know, but I mean, like, sometimes it's nice just to read a story that has the concept in it, rather than just... I mean, this is actually kind of close... This is like kind of one jump or hop skipping away from just being a Wikipedia article in terms of the narrative. Because it feels so much like just an editorial journal thing. But otherwise, like, I can't really recommend it for as a creepypasta, because it's not creepy aside from the concept. Like, the concept, like, if there was more of a punch to it, like we've stated on the show, I would recommend it as a creepypasta. Like, if it was to be redone with like a definite, like, not so much ambiguity as to like why there's something what the benefactor, the horror beyond the machine and stuff like that. Like, if we find out actually what it is, I could recommend it. But yeah, otherwise I can't really recommend it. I enjoyed the read, but I mean, there's just so many things that we could pick at it.
Yeah, because the problem is it's not creepy. There's no real character that you care for.
Yeah, like, I mean,
and that has a tragedy or anything that, like,
had a tragic life. Yeah. But he's not really. He's presented as this desperate, cold figure.
He's the mad scientist.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I'm actually surprised Dr. Leviathan did not find a kindred spirit in that. But and actually, one thing before we end is that the ending paragraph, where it's the narrator switching to his own contemplative, that was the one that really kind of like made me feel like it was a news article. But at the same time, like, who the fuck is this person? Like, is this just came off reading, writing in the third person, and is he now in like living in the slums of St. Petersburg, doing news articles or writing this out, or is this just a no-name journalist kind of thing? Like, he focused so much through the story on the actual, like, came off incident and stuff like that in the machine, and then suddenly the last paragraph is this guy who's been narrating up to this point, but we get a little bit more about his personality and stuff like that. It's like, well, that might be fun and good for, like, if we'd known a little bit more about that prior, like maybe at the beginning, like, introduce it like it was an article, because that's the other thing that also kind of breaks it from being like a legit article, is that a lot of journalists tend to give their an introduction to themselves or something at the beginning, and then finish off with, like, their thoughts at the end.
Yeah.
They don't just go dive into the story or into the article, and then at the end they narrate what they're doing at that exact moment while they're typing up their article, and they're contemplative of it. So sorry, Steve, too much ambiguity to be really creepy for me. So, and Mikey,
the story sort of fell flat. Like, not enough bubbles in a soda type thing.
Okay. So you didn't enjoy the read then?
Well, like I said, it was just mostly fact, little bit of dialogue, fact.
Yeah. And I mean, it was an interesting turn of events, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's not getting my recommendation to read.
Yeah, and
yours is conditional, right?
Yeah, mine's conditional just because, like, I did enjoy the read of it. So, I mean, if you want to read a interesting, if tragic story with the concept of transhumanity or of digital immortality, weird title.
And the biggest flaw with digital immortality is power.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you've transmitted yourself to computer. Now your battery only has 4 hours.
You have exactly 4 hours to live. Your mortality is 4 hours long. Yeah. So I mean, like, I feel like I have a conditional recommendation to it, but otherwise I wouldn't recommend it as a creepypasta. However, I would actually like to see this, like, re-looked at, and maybe, like, some of the kinks can be worked out. It's not an irredeemable pasta. So,
well, the concept is there.
Yeah, and we just went through probably about an hour of things that we could do that we would do to fix it. So, like, it's like they're not like, it's not just like, oh no, this is crap. This is like should never see the light of day. No, like, it's just there are some patches that you need to be done.
Yeah.
update patches.
Yeah, this is version 1.0. We'd like to see 1.5.
Perhaps 2.0.
So, give the author about a week and it'll be done.
Just segue right back to old jokes. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode. But if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, we do welcome criticism of our own criticisms. It's layers upon layers. It's Inception. Leave a comment in the comment section below wherever this gets posted, whether it be on Kiwi6, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. I'm on Twitter, Mikey, at Review Cultist, and Dr. Leviathan's on Twitter at Dr. Leviathan. And you can also send us an email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also send us creepypasta suggestions that you'd like us to discuss on the show. So, you can also leave us a review on iTunes. That would be helpful. And if you would like, you could donate. Go to crazonstudios.tumblr.com, where you can check out all the title cards for each episode. And on the side, there's a little donate button. So until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well. I almost said digital immortal, and I was like, digital immortality.
Digital immortal. There can only be one.
No, that's digital Highlander.
Dialogue.